Hey, it's McKayla Gordon, your host of So Funny It Hurts, where we interview your favorite funny people and explore the trauma that made them that way. Now, I'm so excited about our comedian this week. Honey, he knows Vegas better than Formula One, and we are so excited that he's here today with us. You may remember him on Stephen Colbert or in Mad Apple. Please welcome Chris Turner to the show.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Chris.
Hello.
God, I love that accent. I wanted to be a Spice Girl a majority of my life.
Yeah. Oh, they were my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to be a Spice Girl. I specifically wanted to be Ginger Spice.
Wait, I wanted to be Ginger Spice.
It's the Union Jack dress that she was wearing.
I know, and it was the red hair, and she was so fierce.
Well, she was the naughty one. She was all the others. They were like, "I'm baby,
Yeah.
I'm sporty," and then it
Yeah.
was like, "I'm Ginger, and I'm gonna beat you up."
I know. I was 10, and I was like, yeah, babe.
Oh, we're both Spice Girls fans.
I love
lovely.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can't do it for Halloween because, I mean, well, I guess we could do it. We'll just both be Ginger.
Yeah.
And there'll be two of us.
Yeah, two Ginger Spice. How's your English accent?
Hello.
Oh my God!
Hi.
It's like being back home.
All right, I've got it. Okay. How does it sound to you?
I mean that sounds it went off a bit.
I need a little bit of a minute.
That's
All
quite
right.
good. I mean,
if you want to be my lover,
yeah.
you got to get with my friends.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
Come on.
People. Some people talk like that.
Hello. Fine. Give me something to say and I'll say it.
Okay. I'm going down the pub. Do you want anything?
I'm going down the pub. Do you want anything?
That's good. It sits between posh and scummy, which
I'll take
is where
scummy.
most of British culture is. The sheer number of Uber drivers who I get in and they go, "Oh my God, you're from England. I can do an English accent."
Oh, wait, you sound good.
All right, governor, how's it going? I'm like, would you do that with any other race? Would you be like, "Oh my God, you're from Mumbai? Let me try." I'm not even going to do it there.
Wait, I swear to God, I did want to open with the accent, and I was like, you're going to sound like a dumbass American.
That's
Don't do
fine.
this.
I'm so used to it.
And then I wanted to do it so bad.
Yeah, no, thank
But
you.
it's because I respect the culture. Listen, you've got the best singers, Amy Winehouse for sure.
Oh, look at
And
that.
then you've got the bands,
Yeah.
Spice Girls, Say Less.
Yeah.
The funniest shows, Ab Fab. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You have everything.
So all your cultural touchstones are from my country. That's
Yeah,
quite nice. That.
they
We
are.
can have a good chat about.
Yeah, we
can
are.
alienate every listener.
I would
And
love to
This is the new British culture podcast.
You know what? I love alienating people.
Oh, who doesn't?
Yeah.
I used to do jokes where, and my directors eventually told me to like start cutting them. They were like, "Chris, that joke is clearly just for you." I was like, "No, that joke is for the 10% of the audience who get it, and then they feel smart compared to the rest of the audience." And then my director's like, "Yeah, but that means that 90% of the audience feel dumb, and that you're having fun because they don't get it." I was like, "Okay, wait. So my job is to make the audience feel good?" It's like, yes, Chris. Wait, it's not about me making myself feel good?
Yeah.
Isn't this my creative fulfillment? No, Chris, it's show business. Do the show. Okay. So then I'd be cut down to, in an hour set, I was allowed 3 jokes, which were just for me. The ones that would be like, an audience would go, rather than ha ha ha.
Yeah.
And those would be my favorite jokes.
But I love that. I know. I feel like that's so not so similarly, but I feel like we live in this culture where it's like, be authentically you, be authentic, do yourself. And even the other day, I went somewhere where I was being authentically myself and they wanted something completely opposite. And I was like, babe, you hired me.
Yeah.
I was in the wrong. To be fair, I was in the wrong. But I was like, I'm just vibing off my own personality and I like what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, you should be authentically yourself, but you should also be prepared to go, no, of course, that's not me.
Yeah.
I was playing with my daughter. She's 2, to clarify this.
I
And
saw the photos of Ada.
Yeah,
By the
very
way,
sweet.
this little juicy mama shushu who doesn't understand how to say fire truck, she says.
She says, "Fire fuck."
There she is.
But I was playing with her, and I was like, I feel like in this moment I'm going to be a dog. So I kind of get on all fours and start like kind of like chasing around, going like ruff ruff. And she just looks at me and she just goes, "No, Daddy." I was like, okay, I guess I can't authentically be me, the me that wanted to be a dog right then in that moment to play with my daughter. She goes, "No." And then she goes, "Daddy, walk." So I had to get up on my 2 legs and walk. Like, I just got shut down by my child for probably the first time. I can see now in the future where I'm going to tell a joke and she'll just go, "Daddy, you're not funny."
Oh. Not the way she said, "Get up and walk, Daddy." Enough.
Yeah, no, she's...
You're not a dog.
I know. You're not. Why are you being so silly? I mean, silly daddy is the most common phrase in the house.
Silly daddy.
Yeah.
Does she have an English accent too?
She has a child's accent. I think all toddlers sound the same. All toddlers are like...
Right, okay.
But she says some words. She says poke in a very posh voice. So she'll be like, poke, poke.
Oh.
I hope
She's
she
gonna
has an
have
English
it.
accent. It's either that... I mean, she's being raised in Brooklyn, so...
Oh, how's that going to sound?
I know.
Is her mother English as well?
Her mother's grew up in England.
Okay, so this is your wife, by the way.
Yeah,
her mother.
yeah,
Your
yeah.
wife
Yes.
also.
No, but I refer to her as the baby's mother. It's, having a posh English accent for a baby or a proper Brooklyn accent for the baby. They're both great.
Cool.
Like, when she started taking her first steps, she was like, hey, I'm walking here. I quite like the idea that I'd be like, oh, this is my daughter, Ada. Like, what the fuck did you just call me? Oh, she's got a gun. No way.
I do love the idea of Ada being like this badass Brooklyn bitch with her two very posh English parents.
Yeah. Well, she's such a well-traveled baby because she was born in Colorado during the pandemic, and then we moved to Las Vegas, and then she's lived in Brooklyn most of her life now. Like, that's a well-traveled baby already.
Yeah, and she's not even 2 years old completely yet.
Exactly.
Let's talk about your move to Vegas because you did live here.
Yeah.
And so you're really familiar. Usually I always ask the guests, the comedians, how is it? Is it your first time? And most of the time it is. But you had you were the first comic in Mad Apple, a Cirque show. In 2022, you had a 6-month run.
So we launched. So I was doing 3 months. So it launched in May 2022.
Well, math isn't my strong suit.
Came in and did stand up in a Cirque show, which was the first time they'd ever done that, which was very cool because there was other comedians as well ended up being in the show. So Brad Williams was in the show, Harrison Greenbaum was in the show, and me, and the people who'd scouted us said, we trawled the world looking for the best comedians. And you're like, oh, and you found them in New York and LA, did you? And it was great. It was so cool. So I did that for 3 months, and then we had the option of doing more. They asked me to do another year, but I always wanted to go to New York. And my wife's a writer. I'm a comedian. New York's kind of still, the hub for both of those things. And also friends, family, it's nearer my family in the UK. So you got a little baby. You want your parents to come over and look after them. That's a 7-hour flight, not a 10-hour flight.
Totally.
It does make a difference. But I love living in Vegas. And it's weird when you tell people you live there. They're like, oh, how was it? You're like, oh, it was great. Yeah. Vegas is amazing.
Listen, I love Vegas. I'm from here originally. And then I moved to LA and lived there for 15 years. I said, do you have any trauma? And you said, no, I'm pretty healthy. And then you said, I lived in LA. And I was like, no, sit down, please.
There will be so much trauma.
Yeah, man. LA's tough. For all different types of reasons. Not because it's like even necessarily the best of the best. It's just like tough.
I would say it's not the best of the best. I say it's people who think they're the best.
Right. Okay, right. Dealing with a lot of ego. But I moved back with my fiance a couple months ago, and I love Vegas. The community is good. The people, for the most part, I feel like in our world are wonderful.
Yeah, my wife says that the way it illustrates Vegas compared to LA and New York is taxi drivers. So specifically cab drivers, Uber drivers. In New York, cab drivers, that's their job. They're not going to talk to you. In LA, they're always trying to pitch you something. Like the number of Uber drivers who gave me their card, the number of Uber drivers who they'd be like, oh, you're going to the comedy show. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm doing the show. They'd be like, oh my God, I'm a comedian. Can I come? And you're like, fair play for hustling, but also...
time and place.
Yeah. And then in Vegas... everyone had a story, and my wife started noticing this. You'd want to have a conversation with a Vegas Uber driver. You wouldn't when you were in LA. You'd want to kind of shut that down. In Vegas, they'd always just be like, I was in the Marines, and then I ended up kind of living in Thailand for a while, and then I came here, and now I do community theater, and it's my passion, and I've got 500 grandchildren. And you're like, what? Who are you? And I love driving. Everyone had some story. Whereas in LA, the one good story we got was a guy who was like, hey, just so you know, we're getting in together, my wife and I. He goes, hey, just so you know, I have pepper spray in the car. We're like, okay. do you need to use it? He's like, yeah, that's why I have it. And then he just told us all the times he'd had to use his pepper spray on passengers.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a very welcoming Uber ride.
Yeah. He's like, it keeps me safe. And the rider's safe as well. And it's because they used to have shared Ubers, right? Pre-pandemic, there was Uber Pool.
They still do. You can do shared Uber here.
Okay, it's bad, but it's just not as cheap as it was. It was so cheap. I used to Uber Pool everywhere. Like my first 2 years in LA, I had no money. So I'd want to get to a show. It would be an hour in a normal Uber. So it would be like $100, or you could take an Uber Pool, take 2 hours, but it's $40.
Totally.
Like, I'm going to do
Especially
that.
from the airport to anywhere you lived.
And so this guy said, Uber Pool, people would just get in. He goes, one time a guy got in, there was a girl got in. He just started hitting on the girl. She clearly didn't want it, so I just pepper sprayed him. I don't know if this is how pepper spray
But what does
works.
that look like? Because also when you pepper spray in a certain vicinity, it can get
Blowback.
everyone around. Was there AC? Like, we need details.
Yeah. He was wearing protective goggles.
He knew. He was like, loading up. Let's go.
I mean, yeah, some of them need pepper spray to improve the smell of their cars.
Oh my God.
The number of times you get in, it's got all the air freshener trees, and you go, hey, maybe you could... I'm dying back here.
Yeah.
That's one thing I dislike about Vegas is you do shows and there's smoking. I was on stage the other night and the room was thick with cigar smoke.
Oh,
I'm
the cigars are the what?
I'm trying to rap and I'm there just like, I'm going to die. And like, you know, as a freestyle rapper, you don't want to choke on stage, right? But not in a literal sense as well. So right. For viewers, listeners, it's quite a big reveal quite early on.
I know, you're kind of,
This prick's a rapper.
Okay, but we're going to let you sit with that because when I saw that you were a freestyle rapper, now I could see this from Ada from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
From you, it's a little different. But you're crazy. I want to get into it and how that got started. But I want to go back to something you said. So, because you're from the UK.
Yeah.
And then... what was childhood like? Have you always just been funny? Was it like something that you used? When did you realize like comedy was your thing? Because you're obviously very funny and funny enough to be one of the first comics in a Cirque show.
So I mean, I was funny. I did like school plays and I did kind of local drama classes and theater, and I liked doing little sketches and skits to kind of entertain my friends. And I was in the Boy Scouts and we'd do like these little shows and that was fun. And my dad was funny and he would play me Monty Python. He'd play me kind of classic British comedy. And I would really enjoy that. But it wasn't a thing I wanted. I wanted to be a musician. So I was rapping from like the age of 12, but just kind of for myself. But I was also playing guitar and I was wanting to be in bands. And I never wanted to be like the singer. I just wanted to be the guy playing guitar. And then when I went to university, I kind of found this guy who was this great jazz drummer, and that was always my trick, was I wasn't good enough at music to be the front man. You'd find someone who's really good and then play with them. People go, wow, he's really good, and this guy's really experimental. I'd be the experimental one. Like, I really like how he's just playing open tunings and using lots of effects rather than any technical skill. And that first week at university... and this is where we start clunking big old name things. I was at Oxford University, and I went there because I was a smart kid. That was kind of my thing. I liked being clever. I liked working hard. I liked getting good grades. So I went to Oxford, and I was the first kid in my family to go to university. And Oxford, like no one from my school, my primary school, had ever gone to a proper university like Oxford. So I was going there to become a lawyer. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to make a ton of money. I'm going to make my family proud. But that first week, I saw an improv group called the Oxford Imps, and they performed at our college. And I was like, these guys are funny. I think I could do that. Because I'd done plays, and I was like, well, I always make up stuff, so I'll just do this. So I went to audition, 100 people audition. They let 6 of us in, and they go, you guys are funny, and now we're going to teach you how to do that on stage. Started doing improv, and immediately was like, oh, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
But improv's not a job. You can't really be an improviser. That's like, how many people are ever going to get to be that?
But also it kind of is, because anybody that's never improv'd, it's one of the most difficult skills, I think, in all of entertainment, because you have to be so tuned in to really be phenomenal.
Yeah. And I would say I was never a phenomenal improviser. I was much better at the kind of short form gag style games rather than, like, whose line is it anyway? It's just wit. It's just how quick are you? And that's kind of when you're raised in the UK, a lot of what we value is banter or kind of badinage. It's like coming back with quick put downs. Like people love Jimmy Carr because he does good heckle put downs. Right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of a thing we're brought up with. And there's a lot of banter in the UK, especially I went to an all boys private school. We're all just kind of bullying each other, really. And you have to kind of, whoever's got the sharpest tongue is going to succeed. But then I started doing stand-up because my improv wasn't good enough, partially because I was so selfish on stage. I would always make the scene about me, and that's really not what you should do.
Oh, that's
improv.
weird because I feel the same way.
So then my director in improv was like, hey, you're funny, but you should do stand-up because that way you can get your jokes out. You can have just you on stage, and then that'll make your improv better because then you'll be more willing to give space to the stage and support your other performers, which I was not good at. So I started doing stand-up, and that was when I thought, oh, okay, this is something I could do as a job because I see that there's people who do this as a job.
Right.
And I got signed by a guy who's still my agent in the UK called Sean, and he said, don't be a lawyer. Be a comedian. I was like, but I need to make money. He goes, I will represent you for free until you start making money.
Wow.
He's like, then once you're making a living, I'll start taking my cut.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, he believed in me. And so I did. And that within 2 years of graduation, so I started stand-up in 2009, 2013, that's kind of 1 to 2 years out of university, I was making a living from it. And he was like, look, see, told you.
That's crazy. So how did you go to your family, knowing that you wanted to be a lawyer, make your family proud?
Yeah.
How did you go to your family and say, I'm leaving university as a stand-up comedian?
Yeah, well, so my university kept trying to kick me out because I was doing more stand-up gigs than they wanted me to. They were very...
Wait, do they have control over that?
Oxford, you're not allowed to have a job. If you're at Oxford, you cannot have a job outside of your degree. So they really do control you. And they have these things called penal collections, which is punishment exams. That's what they are. So if you are misbehaving or if you're not putting the amount of work in they expect you to, and I wasn't getting bad grades. I was putting my essays in on time. Oxford, you have to write 2.5 essays a week. It's a big caseload. But they started setting penal collections for me. And they're like, if you fail this exam, you're kicked out of the university. And so every time I'd pass, I'd just be like, see, I can do these two things at once. They were like, but you're here to do a degree. I was like, nah, I'm here to have fun. It's university. And I really do think university is about, everyone says this, discovering yourself. Who are you? Making friends.
Yeah, because also, what are you, like 19?
Yeah.
20?
Yeah. And I went to university and I discovered what I see as my purpose in life. I discovered, I want to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And that's great. I don't want to be a lawyer. I thought I did. And then I found something I liked more.
Uh-huh.
And that's great to then go, okay, change the plan. Because I'm not someone who likes changing plans. I get upset when plans change. I took my mum, my sister, and my wife out for dinner the other night. And I'm like, and there's a really good cocktail bar I'll take you to. And then we get there. And I put my name down on the list. They go, just so you know, there's a private event from 8, so we might not be able to get you in. I'm like, but that means I can't take them to the cocktail bar that's planned. So how does the evening was planned around the cocktail bar? And they're like, we're sorry. I'm like, you don't understand how. And then throughout the meal, my wife's like, are you all right? It's like, yes, the cocktail bar is closed. She's like, it's okay. We'll do something different. I'm like, but it's not the plan.
I mean, but that could be a benefit as much as it is.
I make really good plans.
Yeah.
And
and you're probably easy to stick to a plan or stick to a career choice or whatever you're fixated on is really where you're going to go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I follow things.
Are you a Capricorn?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not going to tell you what I am. So
Good, I don't want to know. I was just guessing.
You can keep guessing throughout and just
and
being
honestly,
like,
I just guessed
are you perhaps a Sagittarius?
I am. Throughout, I'm going to be like, Scorpio. Cancer. Are you ever going to tell me though, or is
I'll tell you when you hit it.
I want to tell you that I had a comedian on, and I said we had a great conversation. At the end, I go, "Oh, so it's your sign?" He goes, "Okay, well, guess." I swear to God, I guessed every astrological sign except the one he was.
Okay.
And that it was the last one. He was like, yeah, you women really know your astrology. Way to go.
I mean, that happens all the time. People come up to you and they're like, so the thing is, you must be so good at this freestyling because of this. I'm like, that has nothing to do with why I can do it. You must practice every single day. I'm like, no, that's the opposite of how you do it.
Yeah. Okay, wait. Well, I want to get to the freestyling, but I do
Yeah.
want to get back to you telling your parents law school was out.
Yeah. So my dad was all for me being a comedian. As soon as I started doing gigs, he was like, I will drive you to these shows. I will watch you. I will be there. I will
love
help you out,
that.
because he's a funny man and he wanted to be part of that. I think he could have been a comedian. My mum was like, yes, but Christopher, it's not really. Is it a career? Is that a future? Is that something for you? I just think, and I was like, well, I'm going to get my degree. Don't worry. I've got a backup plan. But she was skeptical. Now she's incredibly supportive. And I think that came about because her favorite comedian is a comedian called Sarah Millican, who's very funny comic in the UK. And Sarah used to do these work in progress gigs, small venue, in a place where my agent lived, and he used to put on those shows. So one of those shows, he said, oh, you should come and be on the show with Sarah. So I took my mum along. I opened for Sarah. After the show, Sarah's there. My mum has an hour-long chat with Sarah, and I go, what did you chat about? You don't know anything about comedy. She goes, we just chatted about life. We're both women of the same age. We just chatted. And, she said that she thought you were good and she thought that you could make it as a comedian.
Oh,
she goes,
my God.
I'm okay with you doing this. Now, she was always okay with me doing it, but I think she had hoped for, my parents, like my secondary education, so, between primary and university, that school cost a lot of money. And I'm grateful, like they didn't take holidays to afford that money. They didn't have a lot of money. And they were like, well, the money we do have, we're going to spend on Chris because he's clearly smart. Let's give him the best shot that we can give him.
Yeah.
And so I think they then thought it was a kind of waste. Why do you need this education to be a comedian? I think comedians are the smartest people.
I say it all the time. I think that you have to be smart to be a comedian, because you really do have to be able to talk about so many different types of things, and you have to be able to blur lines, and you have to be able to know what's going on over here while talking over here. And there's so many elements of being a comedian. It's so much more than just being funny,
Yeah, I think, so I'm based in New York. I'm at the Comedy Cellar. The Comedy Cellar is famous for having this table that, the comedians all sit around. The conversations at that table are so intellectually informed. And I don't mean in a kind of, oh, hoity-toity, I'm so clever way, but in a people who their brains can grasp complex arguments and they can argue a case in a way that, I used to debate. So I'm like, oh, yeah, everyone here has a good grasp of things. Everyone can talk, there's different types of intelligence, and I think comedians possess.
I mean, that's saying a lot coming from a guy that went to law school. Now having
I should clarify. So I went to Oxford when I was at university. The path to become a lawyer was not to do a law degree, because that was seen as like a basic thing that anyone could do.
Oh.
You were supposed to do a separate degree to show that you were just like generally intelligent, and then you did a law conversion course. So I did my degree, and then the idea was you do 1 year law conversion. The UK system is a bit different, and it's different now. But so I'd done work experience at law firms. I'd been doing internships there. Was going to get my degree in archaeology and anthropology, because that's humanities and sciences, and you just kind of show that I can do this. And then you do 1 year law conversion, and then you're a lawyer, which is different.
Okay, well, this is not how it was shown on Legally Blonde, and so I'm just a little bit confused.
Yeah, no, there you just have to turn up, be a genius, and
I feel like that's how it works, Chris, not to like brag. No, that sounds crazy. I mean, you do a lot of work to get a law degree. I was studying all those different things. I mean, did you find that it ended up benefiting you later on in life, just having all of that knowledge?
I mean, being like, the thing that Oxford does is it works you so hard, so intensely, that you just become... So I started writing jokes because I was writing so many essays. I'd have to write so many essays and read so many books and articles and have all these tutorials, which, again, at Oxford, the way you learn is you sit down with your professor one-on-one and you talk for an hour, and they'll be like, okay, cool, now go and learn about this, and then we'll discuss it. And you go back the next week and you have to present the paper you've written, and they'll go, okay, well, you know nothing about this. Let me tell you all the things you're wrong. You have to defend your paper. Mm-hmm. You do that every week, and it's like, it's a lot. You go into all these lectures, etc. I'd start blowing off steam by writing jokes, And I found that when I graduated, the jokes I wrote became very different because of the environment I was in. I was no longer doing 3 years of this intensive study, so my jokes became very different. My brain would just spit out one-liners, and I was a one-liner comedian before I was anything else. And then when I graduated, I just couldn't write those jokes anymore. And I didn't mind, because I'm not then going to force my brain back into writing jokes that it wasn't wanting to. But yeah, that was always strange to me, that the environment you're in then influences the jokes you write in a structural way. Like, obviously, what you're going through affects what you write, but structurally, my brain was taking all these books, all these articles, synthesizing them into a paper. And in the meanwhile, because I think you write jokes subconsciously a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think so.
Most problems, if you have to solve a problem, think on it and then go and do something else. Take a walk, and then the solution pops up. I mean, that's a common kind of creativity hack.
Yeah, I think it's really cool, though, especially for anybody watching. I think that what you did was really fucking cool, actually, that you were going to school potentially for law and were like, you know what, I came here, I saw, and now I'm going to do stand-up comedy. Because thankfully it did work out, but that was a big risk. And I feel like, I mean, God, 19 and 20 is so young, but I feel like people have that in their 30s, in their 40s, especially now. You sort of have this feeling of like, life goes fast. Do I want to continue down this lane or go do creative things that I really believe in? And I think that was such a wonderful leap of faith that would be very inspiring to people watching.
Yeah, I think so many people and so many comedians in the UK, they come to comedy in their late 20s, and then it's their 30s, mid-30s when they start doing it full time because they were a teacher or they worked in an office. And they started doing it in the evenings. Like, oh, I love this. And it's just because they discovered it later. So if you are lucky enough to discover something that you enjoy early, you can follow it. You can be a comedian for 5 years when you're 20, because what else are you going to be doing? And if you're in a profession, you're going to be doing bottom rung jobs anyway. Then if you enter the profession at 25, they don't start you on the bottom rung. They give you some higher up because of your seniority and just you're slightly older. And I mean, the show I'm writing at the moment, I'm going on tour in Australia in March, is a show that kind of looks back at all this. And it's strange because I was writing all these songs. So I do written musical comedy as well. I was writing all these songs, and I was like, oh, what are these songs about? So I was just writing what was funny to me. And my musical director is like, well, these songs are kind of about aging, and they're kind of about growing up, and they're kind of about decisions. So the show became about like the paths I didn't follow. So I really like how growing up I wanted to be a musician, and I wanted to be a comedian, and I wanted to be a rapper. And that's my actual job. I do all of those things, and I do them all to a reasonably high level, or at least to a level that pays my bills. So I'm living that actual dream, and I think that's very cool to think about. It's also interesting to then go, narrative-wise, I can present that as, this is all I ever wanted. But actually, I also wanted to be lots of things. I wanted to be other stuff. And so this show is looking at that. Like, I found all this stuff where I'd written down what I wanted to be. And I wanted to be a cool DJ. And I wanted to be a cowboy with a beard. And I wanted to be French. Oh. These are all things I wrote down. And I never became those things, obviously. I'm not, secretly putting on. It's not like, what a pleasure to be here.
Well, I secretly wanted to be a Spice Girl, and I just opened up very wide my own British accent. So we're all doing what we wanted to do.
So writing this show and looking at that. And then it has the kind of the two themes that come in. Like, I have a 2-year-old. So what do I want for her? Well, I want for her to do whatever she wants, but then also, what can she want? Because really, what jobs will there be? We don't know. What jobs will be left to do? We don't know. What do kids want? What can they be? And then the parallel to that is with the audience. Not everyone is as fortunate to do the thing that they wanted to do, or to have even found what that is. Because annoyingly, we have to work to live. That sucks. Wouldn't it be nice if we could all just be kind of like Jane Austen style Mr. Darcy's and just have money and a property, and our job is to just be a gentleman, just to be at balls and to support the arts, to, like all the great artists of the past had a patron. They had a rich person who was like, yes, do paintings, why am I doing these paintings? They're going in my country manner. That's, problematic, but also great.
Yeah, but at least they were getting paid doing what they love.
Yeah. So with the show, I'm finding myself encouraging the audience and also mocking them. Like, one of the ways I freestyle in the new show is interview the crowd. What do they do? But not just the kind of who are you, what do you do? The question then becomes, well, what did you want to do? And finding out if that's actually what they became, or being able to show them, well, I know you said you wanted to be a basketball player and now you work in finance. But let me show you the ways in that similar. So you can, whenever you do this, it's just like doing a slam dunk, isn't it? And they're like, yeah, maybe my life isn't so sad.
Wait, I love this so much. And it's making me a little, I cry about everything anyway, but it does make me a little bit emotional because I feel like maybe how it's personally touching me is that I think that aging is probably difficult for everybody, just as it happens, even if you're confident, whether you're, no matter what, and when you really decide to take it's scary no matter which way you go. You're dealing with fear either way, whether you stay in the job that you chose for yourself 20 years ago that has nothing to do with what you wanted to be when you were little, or pulling the trigger and saying, I'm going to start right now. I've got one life to live. Let me do it. Then it's scary because you're going into unknown circumstances. Then you're going to fuck up a lot because it's just new for you. So then you got to deal with mistakes and the pressure that you put on yourself. Man, I've been doing this for so long, and I did an interview a couple of days ago and I just bombed it. And I was like, I thought about it for 3 days and I was like, what the fuck?
Let me share. This is a Sarah Millican thing. It's called Millican's Law. And it's really useful for comedians. So she says, after you have an amazing gig, you can think about that gig and talk about that gig until 11 a.m. the next day. After that point, that gig's in the past. You can't be like kind of crush that gig, smash that gig. Oh, I'm amazing because I killed that gig. But with this goes you telling yourself that after 11 a.m. the next day, if you have a bad gig, that also can't affect you. So you have a death, you have a really stinky gig, 11 a.m. the next day, you don't let that affect you. And because, as a comedian, we hope that we have better gigs than we have worse gigs, the fact that you're stopping yourself from, getting too up yourself about your good gigs, it kind of balances out the bad ones. And that's a useful thing, continues to be useful, but was especially useful earlier on, where you'd have those terrible gigs, and we let those affect us much more. We let negative criticism affect us more than positive criticism. I can read, reviews of my shows, and people go, wow, look at all these good reviews. I'm like, yeah, but look at this one where they hated it. Like, Chris, that's written by a student on a website that no one's ever going to visit. There's a hit counter, and the only hits are you. I'm like, yeah, but, they didn't like it. And it's like, shut up. Discount the outliers. But also, we have that, and it's when you question you go, oh, why should, I still do that. Like, oh, why am I even doing comedy? I was terrible, or even not terrible. Like, I was just average. Yeah. Anyone could be an average comedian. Why am I doing it? Yeah. Think of all the law firms that would be eager to have me.
Oh God, yeah.
Think of all the people that I could have put in jail. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a lawyer just so I could
just send their ass to prison.
Yeah.
Do you follow the 11 a.m. rule?
So I follow. So we call it Millican's Law.
Okay,
unless you're saying
unless
there's a new 11 a.m. rule. Is that when you said
no,
that?
that's what I'm going to call it in my head.
Yeah.
I'm going to say after 11 a.m. the next day, it's over.
Yeah.
Which is really good advice.
I think so.
Yeah, because you live in it sometimes.
Yeah, and it's not nice, especially for the people who are around us. You have a bad gig, and it's like it's not just a bad gig for you; it's a bad gig then for your partner. It's a bad gig for your friends that night when you're having a drink and you're just there like, stupid.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what's crazy about comedians. Sometimes it's not the trauma that makes you funny, or it's trauma like childhood or parenting trauma. I think that it is a very vulnerable position to go out on stage every night with like this invisible armor that you've created for yourself or not, and really expose yourself. And when the highs are high, it is good. There's nothing like making people laugh or making people feel good, or when you're rapping or you're playing music, making them feel any kind of emotion. And when you bomb, it's like a personal hit, and you take it home with you.
Yeah, the invisible armor is interesting. So my third gig, it was a professional stand-up night. It was the first 2 gigs I'd done were open mics, and they'd gone okay. Or at least I thought they'd gone well. Obviously, they'd gone fine. I used to rate my gigs. So like that first gig I gave 8 out of 10. Well, you know, and then the next one was 7 out of 10. My third gig, I'm 3 minutes into the gig. I do a joke. It doesn't go very well. Doesn't really get a laugh at all. The next joke, no laugh. The next joke, no laugh. And my final joke, no laugh. And the guy just goes, tumbleweed. And I leave the stage because that's the end of my set. And so I'm not booed off stage. I'm silenced off stage. And I go back. And I still have that notebook. It's a little red moleskin notebook. And I've rated that gig 5 out of 10. Because the first 2-3 minutes were fine. And that is the type of white male confidence that the British public school system, and by public I mean private, we use words in a silly way over there, kind of really instills in you when you're 19 and you go, I just got silenced off stage, but it's a 5 out of 10. That was my armor early on. But thinking about like trauma in terms of shows, there's a type of show in the UK that I think specifically hardens you. And it's one of those ones where for a lot of comedians, this show would not be a good idea. But they're essentially called gong shows. I know there was a thing called the gong show over here. The way it was run in the UK, and our example was in Manchester, where I grew up and where I did a lot of comedy. It was called Beat the Frog. This is a show. It's free. It's on a Monday. 200-seat club, always full. 10 comedians try and last 5 minutes each. There's a host. He sits on stage. He's got a gong. The audience are given 5 big green cards. If 3 of those cards go up in your set, you get gonged off stage. So you have to last 5 minutes without 3 kind of, you know, it's a sample of the audience really. And the idea that there's only 3 out of the 5 is because some people have friends. If their friends get a card, they'd never hold it up, right?
Mm-hmm. Wait, and I want to challenge people. I don't think people understand how long 5 minutes is in comedy. If you don't know, I want you to set a timer and just talk for 5 minutes. You will realize it is such a long time to be on stage telling jokes.
Yeah, and so you had to get to the end of 5 minutes without them getting bored. Because that's it. It doesn't mean your jokes have to be bad. They could just be like, yeah, but he wasn't as good as the last one. Or, I don't really like his face.
Oh.
And so these shows would make you funny. If you kept doing them, you learned what was good. Because if a joke is bad, that someone's card would go up. And you know when someone doesn't laugh, you don't hear it. So you don't know, oh, that's not a great joke, because maybe there's some other laughter. But when you tell a joke and a card goes up,
you know.
I kind of do this when I'm trying out new songs, because the thing with songs is people applaud at the end of a song regardless. And applause is kind of a constant noise. You know, maybe they'll be a bit louder if it's like an upbeat song. But when I tried out my songs, I gave out 5 whiteboards and marker pens in this there's a little 50-seat room near where I live. And I just do new material shows there. And I give out, and at the end of it, I take in their scores. And it's humbling, this format, because I'll do a song and I'll be like, oh, that was amazing. I did one song, you know, the first 4 people were like 8, 9, yeah, they liked it. And then once it goes 3, I was like, you didn't like the song? And they were like, no, didn't feel true. Didn't believe it coming from you. And I was like, oh. And afterwards, then someone else who was like, oh, I like that song, was like, yeah, they've got a point, though. It's not really...
Oh, shit.
It doesn't feel like you, does it, that song? And I was like, oh, okay. And that song, I then persisted doing it, been doing it, and then the last new material show I did, I just went, actually, that song, that should get cut, because it doesn't... Why am I doing it? It doesn't feel true or real. I was like, oh, that's what they said.
Wow.
I'm not saying you should listen to every bit of criticism.
Wait, but I love that. I love that you take the whiteboards and you allow yourself to be in a position.
Yeah. That's in my work in progress shows. I'm not doing that, you know, like a professional gig at the Comedy Cellar. Just
you do it tonight.
And let me know what you feel about all this.
Listen, that was actually such a great conversation, and I really appreciated it so much. So thank you for that. And also, Milliken Law, I love it. You do rap. You do these songs, and not only do you rap, you literally go on stage. You ask people to give you words, and you make an entire rap to a beat. How is it nerve-wracking for you to constantly create new material through rapping?
No, it's very fun. It feels very natural. It feels quite easy. I kind of say, like, when you're learning to drive, it's terrifying. You're like, how can I move all these things, especially if you're learning stick, right, in the UK? How can I operate all these things at the same time? But then, now, how do you drive? Well, you just get in a car and drive. And we get to the point where most of us, we drive somewhere, we get out of the car, we go, oh, I've kind of forgotten that drive. I don't remember doing it. You just kind of zoned out because it's so natural. I'm not saying that's a good thing. It feels like most people in Vegas drive like that.
It's me. I'm the driver.
But that's what it's like with freestyling. Once you've learned it, it's not even doing. It's just it just comes, and the beat comes on, and it feels very comfortable to let it all come out and stuff. You know, there's some instances where you might get nervous, but nerves are just adrenaline, and adrenaline is really powerful. Adrenaline slows time down. So if you've got real nerves, as long as you don't let that overwhelm you, you can just turn that into
Wait, let's break into this conversation for a second. People, myself included, do get very nervous. And I love that you said nerves are adrenaline, and
it's fight or
adrenaline
flight,
is power.
Mm-hmm. So either it's to make you run away faster or fight stronger. So whenever you feel nerves as a comedian, I'm just like, well, I'm not running away. Like, this is for fighting with. And then I always used to picture it as like the adrenaline, this is so silly, but like the adrenaline would pool into your feet and your hands, which is why your hands are shaking, or you can pull that adrenaline back into your brain and your heart and let that propel you on stage. And so I used to use that as a kind of visualization for freestyle rapping. This means that I can rap better.
I love that. It's just a perspective change.
Yeah.
And I think that does apply to all things in life. I think that even going back to the conversation of the show you're writing, talking about aging or having this conversation, because surely also when you put this show out, it will make people think either for the better or for the worse. I feel like once you know knowledge, you can't, at least for me, I can't unknow it. So if you're presenting me with, you didn't say what you were going to do when you were little, it's going to put a fire in me whether I put it out or not to do it. But you get nerves, and if you're thinking of it like the adrenaline is just in your heart, not in your hands.
Yeah, I mean, with that show, I was thinking like, you have to be careful with an audience. I mean, I've done shows in the past there are powerful moments. I did a whole show about my grandparents' Alzheimer's. And as a show, you're kind of talking about things you've been through, and you're kind of turning what could be potentially sad into entertainment. Like that show, whenever people walked into the venue, this was for a run at a festival, the whole room was covered with Post-it notes, because that was me talking about my grandma covering her house with Post-it notes so that she'd remember where everything is. And people would be like, oh, this is weird. And then you'd tell these stories, and I'd do funny jokes about old people. And like, you know, I had this bit about an old woman driving the wrong way down a freeway and causing a big accident. You're like, these old people. And then later in the show, I'd reveal, like, that's the story about my grandmother and how she was diagnosed with dementia, was because she drove the wrong way down a freeway. And then at the end of that show, I'd do a freestyle rap inspired by audiences' like treasured memories. And so I'd be like, look, some things we don't want to forget, like they're really special to us. And so they'd give you these memories, and then I'd freestyle about them. And you have a responsibility then to care for that audience member. You've kind of coaxed something out of them. And they've done that because they formed a connection with you over the show. And then you'd freestyle about it. And it's your job to not be mean or cruel or play it for laughs. You do it, as a little thing. And so with this new show, I am aware that I have to I'm showing off, really. I'm going, look at how great I get. I get to have all this fun on stage with all this thing, because I follow my dream. I don't want to make people sad. I don't want to make people leave the show feeling, oh, I wish I'd followed my dream. I want people to identify, what was it that made you like that? If you wanted to be a basketball player, it's like, well, you can still go and play a pickup game at the weekend and like maybe get back into that, or whatever you liked, you should try and, find that within yourself. And so there is like in the final song of the show, which is ostensibly a song to my daughter, but actually becomes a song to the audience, because
Ada from Brooklyn.
You should always turn the personal into the, the kind of the micro into the macro, essentially. And so there's a line in that which is just telling the audience, like, don't ask yourself what if, ask yourself why not. And you kind of hope that people kind of go, yeah, why not? Why can't I just actually, I'm going to go swimming, because I always used to love swimming and I've stopped doing that. And I think that's quite fun to you're giving an audience a gift, and whether the gift is just a good night out or laughter. If the gift can also be more than that, that's quite nice, because when people come and they pay $30 for a ticket, they're like, I want to laugh. And if you give them more on top of that, they're like, bonus prize. You don't want that prize to be, I'm questioning my place in the world. Why did I ever do this? I regret every decision I've ever made, because that's not good. And I'm also, without being the kind of, coffee mug, no regrets thing, I'm also like, oh God, you shouldn't regret decisions you made. Like, you can. Obviously, I've made decisions I'd rather not have. But also, it's bad to dwell on them. 11 a.m. rule. Follow that all the time.
11 a.m. Listen, I love Milk and Law. I'm telling you, I'm going to think about that so much. Okay, so I'm obsessed with your freestyle rap. Would you be willing to make a freestyle rap about So Funny It Hurts?
Of course, yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, what do I have to do? Do I have to do anything? Do I have to give you anything? How does this work? Pretend I'm in the audience.
Give me the fuel for the fire. So we need some topics that we're going to hit upon. So usually I would take 5 random topics from the audience, and I'd be like, hey, make them as wild and crazy as whatever. If you want to make it a more laser focused thing, we can definitely do that.
It's whatever you want. Can we can I say like So Funny It Hurts, the name?
Of course you can. I mean, it's right there.
It's right here.
Yeah.
Okay, can you 5 random topics?
Yeah. So I mean, that's one of them then.
So Funny It Hurts. Vegas.
Yeah.
Okay. Chase, you got anything?
I feel like F1 is just really a good thing to tie in there right now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do F1. Can we do comedians?
Yeah, sure.
How many is that?
That's 4. So Funny It Hurts, Vegas, F1, comedians.
And
don't look at me.
A wild card, something completely out of the blue.
Ada from Brooklyn.
Ada from Brooklyn, my baby. Okay, well, I'll put these headphones on because that's where the music lives.
Okay, me too. Do I need to put mine on too?
If you want to hear.
Yeah, otherwise you'll just hear an a cappella British man.
Honestly, I would like that. That sounds nice.
I'm going to bring the mic nice and close because I love getting up in the grill.
The good proximity effect.
Exactly. Don't lose that bass in my voice.
This is thrilling. His larynx is down.
Alrighty.
He's singing, right? That's keep it low.
Yeah. Listen, Chase is really an opera singer.
Oh,
he's
brilliant.
He's an engineer, but he's phenomenal. And I'm a singer when I'm not doing this. And so we love musicians.
Oh,
here.
for my music show, I've had to be learning how to sing. And not learning how to sing, but like just how to keep my voice able to do an hour of songs every night. And it is a lot of that, talk to yourself, relax everything, make space. And then you just go, oh, it's actually easier to go, I'm not going to sing now because I don't have my auto-tune.
Yeah,
pedal.
no, we literally, before you got in here, we're talking Alexander Effect. And what was it? Franco Corelli, like the things that you can do with your body. Because doing stand-up multiple times a night also while rapping is strenuous for your voice.
It is. Little old us with our poor little voices. It's so hard.
They're just babies. Okay, I don't want to interrupt.
Right. Yeah, well, this is a freestyle rap about So Funny It Hurts, about Vegas, about F1, about Ada from Brooklyn, and comedians. And that's what we're going to do. All made up on the spot. If you don't like it, you suggested these things, and that's your fault. Let's get that happening. And let's do this. This is a lovely intro. This is a beat by a guy called Dexter, so enjoy that. We get it going, get flowing, the rhyme's so expedient, coming from the British guy, call him a comedian, a rapper, so dapper, yeah, he's cooking, a 2-year-old toddler, that's his gal from Brooklyn. She walking through the streets with these, best believe that Ada always ordering the chopped cheese, that's the bodega speciality, get the hamburger meat from the deli, when she's in a crib, she loves to cuddle on a teddy bear, cute little gal with the blonde curly hair, she be mine, sitting by my side all night, saying, Daddy, walk properly, cause that's not right. She says, silly daddy, baddie on the track. I got the logo there in that back. Hey, so funny it hurts. This a fun shout. Love that you decorate it with the umlaut and flip it all around. See it there on the top and the bottom. You got McKayla Gordon's name, so it's never forgotten. The logo looking so nice. Yes, I want to fill in, but then the outline of the font, I should warn you, The show might contain trauma. Never put comedians in a corner or baby, specifically Ada, that we say vroom vroom. People going on the strip today. That be Max Verstappen, maximum rapping. Lewis Hamilton, yeah, he's passing the baton. You got George Russell and Lance Stroll and other people. My goal is to make sure you know all the names of the F1 racers. Sphere, Madison Square, yes, so amazing. You can pay $5,000 for a grandstand ticket, or you can just say no, I'm picking comedy shows instead. Go and see Chris when he's there at the microphone. It's such bliss, that's all that we need. All I wanna see, so funny, ha ha, tee hee. Basically, I forgot what else we really need to do. F1 comedy, Ada, and then you, the name. What was the last one?
Vegas.
Of course. Oh, okay, Basically, we did it ourselves. You know that we're present. We're here right now pulling that lever, getting the lucky sevens. I can go and play baccarat, go and play snake size. When I roll the craps, that's the dice I advise. Get a pretty lady to blow on the blocks. Play the blackjack, hit 21 and stop, or hit on a 16 if the dealer's got the 10. I can spread all of the Vegas knowledge again and again, like the World Series of Poker. This the World Series of Jokers. World Series of Weed, people always toker. They're in the casinos, we know that I would rather envy, that's to stay out in Nevada, or Nevada if you want to say it like the locals do. Snarling up the strip when they close to, because the F1 race got all the traffic jam. That's the freestyle rap from the classic British man.
Oh my God, that was amazing! Oh my God, that was amazing. Let me pull this mic because I'm screaming to death. You're insane.
Well, thank you.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
I wish all audiences were like this.
Listen, that was crazy.
Thank you.
I can't stress this enough. This is not something we talked about. I didn't send you anything email-wise. You also legit take on this swag. It's like you literally become.
Oh, thank you.
That was insane.
It's fun. I like it. I could go into a little zone, and yeah, that's been fun.
Wait, that was amazing. That was so dope.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I will think about how good that was until 11 a.m. tomorrow.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, listen to me. That's insane. That's crazy that you can do that. And I feel like I really don't know what to say. Like, thank you so much, one, and two, fucking A.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's a weird one. You know, it's a fun little party trick to have as well. I mean, without discovering stand-up, without doing it, like that's a skill that, what do you do with it? You know, what do you do with it? Especially like a white British guy. If it's like, oh, he's a great rapper. Yeah, but also like, but then you find comedy and work it in, and it kind of exists so perfectly there, which I'm very, very fortunate.
Yeah, but I also feel like it could just work so many places. I mean, you have to be, this is my favorite thing about comedy. You have to be smart. You have to be dialed in. You have to be knowledgeable to be able to freestyle like that off of 5 words or 5 things, not stumble, not trip up, literally just press play and go. It's a part of someone's brain that just has to be all in. And it's crazy to me that and amazing that you can do that.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoy it. And it's nice for me to have fans come to shows because they know I can do it. So last night someone said, the Monty Hall problem. And I was like, oh, great, that's fun. It's the whole thing about, you know, you've got 3 doors. Behind 2, there's a goat, and behind 1, there's a speedboat. And you choose one, and then he opens the door and shows, this one's a goat. Do you want to change your choice? And you should always change your choice in terms of probability, even though it makes no sense. But the person who suggested it was like, yeah. I was like, what might Chris maybe know that you can rap out? And they were like, you know, he's like, I was thinking about that for ages, about what to suggest. He goes, but I also could have suggested this. I was like, oh, I'm glad you didn't, because I had no idea what that was. It was like some weird physics term. But I love that fans come to shows trying to stump me, trying to catch me out. And that's really fun, because it pushes me to kind of dig into my brain and to make the rap as good as it can be. And you set yourself challenges. So like, you know, I'll mix up the beats. I'll use new beats. I'll work with bands who improvise the beats. I'll change the tempo. I'll change the format of the rap. And so if I keep myself on my toes, I can keep it kind of coming out at this top level without having to actually rehearse or practice or...
I mean, I feel like also, like for me, like I can't, when I sing or do anything, like I can't drink, I can't do anything. I like to be so like clear on, it's never helped me. Like a swig of whiskey, like would make me more nervous than it did loosen me up. I'm not that girl.
I always say that 1 drink makes the rap better, 2 drinks brings it down to about the same, 3 drinks onwards it gets progressively worse.
Okay.
But if I'm having 3 drinks, that's only because the audience have had 3 drinks, in which case they're down there with me.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Listen, Chris, you're so brilliant. I'm so thankful that you made time to come into studio.
Very grateful.
I know you have a show tonight. And then where are you at the rest of the year?
I'm in New York pretty much all the time. I mean, if anyone wants to find out where I am, you just head to my website, which is either christurnercomedy.com or britishcomedian.com. Both of those work. And on britishcomedian.com, you can just put in your email and where you are based, and then you get an address, an email when I'm performing in your area. So that's where to find me. But then I put up new videos every week on YouTube of raps that I've done. So if you could ever make it to a show, you can still watch those. So that's where to find me.
Yeah, great. And they'll follow you on
much all
social
the
media,
time.
but you're a New York City guy. You went from the Mad Apple to the Big Apple.
Exactly. Yeah, well, that's it. It was a New York-themed Cirque show. And they were like, this is the best that New York has to offer. And then people are like, but you're British. I'm like, yeah, but they found me in New York. So that does count, doesn't it? And, there's a Sting song, Englishman in New York. So that's what I walked on to.
Is that your theme? I was going to say, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, for that. That always works. Yeah, now I just come onto London Calling and people are like, oh, that's great. I'm like, I'm not from London, but it does fulfill what everyone thinks. People always go, oh my God, you're British. I love London. You're like, I'm not from there. It's my rival city, actually.
The way that you literally do the American accent is so great.
Oh my God, it's so cool. I love it. Oh, yeah. That's how you all sound to me. Bro, let's totally go surfing. I love doing accents in my raps as well. Like, I love it when people suggest something that lets me do the accent. And when you're rapping in German or rapping in American or rapping in French, that's always really fun.
Wait, there was a rap that you did. It was on social media. And oh God, I just saw it. You literally stopped, did an accent in the rap and went back into the rap. And it was amazing. It's so colorful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's just, it's all about the comedy as well, isn't it? Like, it's got to be funny because you're a comedian doing it, but then also it has to not just be funny because you're a British guy doing it. And that's one of the things that I'm proud of, is that I think I could hold my own against. Most people can't even freestyle. So you work with musicians in New York and they're like, hey, we play for actual rappers and they can't freestyle for shit. You're like, oh, it's cool that you can hold your own against someone who actually, is just a rapper.
Yeah.
Because you don't want it to just be, it's good for a British guy.
Yeah.
Because that would be quite, if it's good when you see it once and after that not, that's not good enough. So.
Yeah. Well, listen, you're crazy talented. Please give Ada from Brooklyn our love as we head into the holidays. I know her birthday is literally next week.
Yeah. It's going to be a big old party. I love that. It's one of my favorite things to see when you give a toddler a birthday cake, because they don't know what to do. And everyone's like, blow the candles out. And you see them kind of look at the candles. And then there's always the parent behind them going to blow out the candles. And you see the toddler go like, wait, what? Did I just blow that out with my mind? Am I special? Wow. It's one of my favorite expressions. I've seen it so much. All my friends' kids have just turned 2. And you just see they send the video. It's always that. It's always like, blow the candles. And the toddler's like,
oh my God. And then 4, they just spit all over the cake.
They spit all over the cake. They give everyone COVID.
So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Listen, also love to your wife. I know that you guys were both traveling, but we're going to the holiday season. So happy holidays.
Thank you.
Please let us know when you're back in Vegas. We would love to have you on again.
Yeah, come back on, do some more raps.
Yes, please.
Dig up some more trauma.
Listen, I have to say, of all the episodes we've done, there were like 2 or 3 major gems of advice that I think are so good for all types of people. Because listen, we do as comedians and as entertainers want to make people feel good. But also sometimes it's that 15-second piece of advice that you're like, fuck, I needed that. Okay, good. And I swear that.
Well, that's good. Good, sensible British advice.
Yeah, we needed
Stiff
that.
upper lip, lie back and think of England.
Yeah. Ada from Brooklyn will beat your ass, but you'll give really helpful advice.
She will.
Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Have an amazing show tonight, and we'll see you when you get back to Vegas.
Until next time, thank you.
Thank you so much. So Funny It Hurts is brought to you by Pacific West Injury Law. Got into an accident? Contact Pacific West Injury Law. Also, there's nothing better for your mental health than a great workout. And our episode is brought to you by Fit Club, the only place to be. It's so funny, it hurts.